following story is part 2 of the November 2024 PopCross Community Redraw. To see the submission scroll and the first half of this story, you can check out the episode link to part 1 in the cards and in the description. Now enjoy the Powerhouses Reaper Rise Part 2. Hovering over the crumbling city with 9 kaiju still ravaging it, Alexis decided whether or not she could stomach working alongside the Archon demon Kaijigrex, she couldn't wait any longer to attack Tarsa. With her massive scythe in hand, she shot forward, going straight for Tarsa's head. Tarsa raised her arm, and from it sprang a glowing green blade. Alexis's weapon struck it and pushed Tarsa back, but didn't cut through Tarsa's own glowing weapon. She slashed again and again, darting around Tarsa, trying to get a hit from any angle she could. Tarsa blocked every single one, but she wasn't making it look effortless. Maybe Alexis and her friends could handle her without Kaijigrex. Alexis backed off and clenched her free fist twice to activate her Mineral Manifestation ability. A dozen boulders appeared around her. She aimed her hand and had them shoot towards Tarsa 3 at a time. Tarsa dodged and weaved and carved through them, but as she did, Alexis called through her comms. "Anyone who can get over here, come now. We're taking Tarsa down here and now." Tarsa raised one of the tentacles she'd been using to stand on top of a skyscraper below her to snatch Alexis's boulder. Tarsa said, "They may be a bit distracted at the moment. My orders to my demons have seen to that." Before Alexis could respond, Mara called through the comms. "Sorry, Alexis, we all want to help you with Tarsa, but we've got other problems. 5 kaiju now have her techno-organic virus on them, and they're headed to the outer city, where thousands of civilians are still being loaded into shuttles to evacuate. If we don't handle them, there are going to be a lot more deaths today." Alexis glanced over to Kaijigrex, still flapping his massive wings in the air with his arms crossed, as if still waiting for a response to his offer. Below her, Tarsa's non-bladed arm shifted into a Gatling gun laser cannon surrounding her forearm. She shot at Alexis, who dodged around all the green beams of light, but once she did, they circled back around towards her. Soon, hundreds of the beams were chasing her through the sky. "Reaper rings, how many cuts will it take to kill But she stopped the question as she realized Tarsa wasn't actually an Archon. She may have Archon powers, but if she died, she wouldn't go to the same place as the Archons. By Alexis's own moral code, she couldn't kill Tarsa. The Sharp Gang couldn't put Tarsa back in her previous prison either, as Archon powers had let her teleport out of there in the first place. Could her Archon powers be taken away? She tried asking the Reaper rings, and the answer that came back was unhelpful. The purple ring read, "Unprecedented event. Answer unknown." That was just another little shove towards the unthinkable team-up. Alexis clenched her free fist again and manifested more stones, this time smaller ones, but far more of them. She hurled them behind herself so the beams chasing her would strike them instead of her. She swooped back around and aimed her hand at the building below Tarsa and said, "Stone Seekers!" The top of the building crumbled to pieces, both removing Tarsa's perch and creating dozens of jagged projectiles that all soared up towards Tarsa as she fell. Unfortunately, with use of her bladed arm and her tentacles, Tarsa sliced and smashed away all the coming stones. Alexis slowed mid-flight and was near where Kaijigrex was waiting. She snarled, "So what, you're just gonna float here and twiddle your thumbs?" He smiled smugly.
"Does this mean you're accepting my offer for a temporary allegiance, Reaper?"
"Why do you even want to work together?"
"Because I want Tarsa slain as well, but more so than that, it seems like us working together would really annoy you, which makes it all the more entertaining."
Through her comms, Mara spoke again. "Alexis, we just called in the rest of the team. They're on their way, but we're probably gonna need all of them to help stop the kaiju from hurting anyone else. Even with the whole Sharp Gang, it's gonna be tough." Alexis could give Mara a Reaper rise like she had with Heath moments ago, but if she did that, she'd lose all her enhanced mineral magnetism abilities temporarily. Still, she'd have her Scythe, Flight, and Strength. Maybe with an Archon demon backing her up, that'd be enough to beat Tarsa. "All of you stay in the fight. If you're desperate for a boost, I can give one more Reaper rise to someone who needs it, but for now, I'm gonna work with Kaijigrex to take down Tarsa." There was a slight pause, then Heath replied, "Words I never thought I'd hear you say, Alexis, but we trust your judgment. Do what you gotta do." Alexis suddenly heard a sound like a whole block of buildings crumbling at once. She turned to see that Tarsa was creating writhing masses of metallic virus to hurl onto the buildings around her. As soon as they struck, the skyscrapers themselves began breaking apart to form legs and arms, becoming even more colossal demons, ready to fight. Alexis aimed an arm down at the nearest one and called out, "Stoneseekers!" But now that it was under Tarsa's command, the building couldn't be shattered by her abilities. She groaned angrily, turning back to Kaijigrex. "The deal is we're not killing Tarsa, we're apprehending her so we can figure out a way to lock her up and take her Archon powers away. Got it?" Kaijigrex grinned.
Does that mean you truly wish to work with me, Reaper?
"Oh, I 100% don't wish to, but I will this once."
Alright, let's freaking go, Reaper.
The Archon clacked his teeth together, and suddenly in a burst of yellow smoke, a 400-foot-tall Tyrannosaurus kaiju appeared in the city below.
Handle any new minions Tarsa makes, Kai-Tyrannos.
The demon stomped towards one of Tarsa's new building demons. It bit into it, shook its head, and instantly ripped it apart, sending concrete, glass, and metal everywhere. If Heath and Mara hadn't been busy, they would have found this Tyrannosaurus demon familiar looking. But they were dealing with their own matters. Mara was in the midst of a brawl with a deceptively powerful kaiju. It was only around 100 feet tall, but it was far faster than the others, and even Mara's hardest punch hadn't broken through its stony, hardened magma-like flesh. It had been infected by Tarsa's virus, which was amplifying a natural ability it seemed to have, which allowed it to shoot beams and chunks of fire and magma from its chest. The heat was enough to hurt even Mara in her full demon form. Other members of the Sharp Gang were showing up on the scene, but none were helping Mara yet. This wasn't from lack of consideration, she could just usually handle any foe she came across one-on-one, given enough time. She was a powerhouse after all. Still, even powerhouses needed a hand sometimes. The nimble, flaming dinosaur-like demon scrambled around and up the tallest skyscraper remaining, and fired a beam of magma towards Mara on the ground below. She leapt onto the side of the building and started tearing her way up its side towards the beast. She easily evaded the magma, but quickly the beast caught on and coated the whole top of the building in more of the sweltering muck. Mara kicked in one of the windows and crashed into an empty office building, and ran straight for the elevator. She tackled through the doors and shot the rest of the way up the building through the elevator shaft, hoping to leap quickly through the magma and smash right into the demon's underbelly. But it was just a blind shot, and she missed, soaring right up past the demon's side. It noticed her, snatched her in its jaw, and hurled her across the city. She made her demonically enhanced arm grow and snatched the top of a building, but she was moving with too much force, and a chunk of the building top was torn off in her hand. She kept hurtling through the air and crashed into the upper floor of an apartment building, destroying what was once someone's bedroom. She picked herself up quickly and called through her comms. "Tayron, any chance Wellerman can cool down that Scorch kaiju?" Tayron had given his water dragon summon an upgrade with his enchanted Kuznet stone, so its own abilities were elevated, somewhat similar to how the Reaper Rise had upgraded Heath. In this form, it had recently faced down a flaming demon general and won, so an infected kaiju shouldn't be too much of a struggle. Tayron replied, "I'll do my best to get him there as soon as possible, but Wellerman is helping Sterling, Kate, and Ares keep a kaiju away from one of the evacuation stations. It's too close for comfort right now. Sorry, Koshmara." She considered asking another member of the team when she heard the sound of a massive cannon bellow across the city. She leapt to the top of the building she'd landed in and saw the flaming demon crashing to the ground, along with a row of a dozen buildings crumbling from a shot that shook the city. She looked in the direction the shot had come from and saw a 300-foot-tall red, silver, and beige shrimp-like kaiju with a massive cannon claw charging across the city towards its fallen prey. Mara recognized its look from the mission briefing. "Everyone, the second demon general, Kalfide, has entered the city. I'll keep an eye on him, but for now at least he's targeting Tarsa's infected kaiju." Ares quickly replied,
"Don't let that thing get too close to the infected ones. I don't know much about demon generals, but my guess is, if that thing gets infected, then all the kaiju under its command are gonna keep following its orders and start targeting the civilians too."
Mara's heart jumped. He had a good point. At least for the moment, Kalfide's kaiju were either attacking Tarsa's demons or staying out of the way. If they became a threat too, this whole situation would get a lot worse. She could only make out the glow of the Scorch kaiju behind some buildings, but it did look like it had recovered and was headed for the second demon general. Mara moved to the edge of the building and sprang down straight to the street. She had better visibility leaping across buildings, but she was a lot faster on the ground running. Buildings blurred past her as she sprinted in the direction of the two kaiju. She felt the city quake as another of the shrimp kaiju's cannons went off. She saw buildings ahead crumbling and knew she had to be close. She ran right between two buildings as they were falling to pieces, dodging all the debris and skidding to a stop on the next street. Which you could barely call a street anymore. She looked up to see the Scorch kaiju was clinging to the demon general's cannon arm, and its mechanical virus was moving from its chest towards the shrimp demon's cannon. She fired off the ground right towards it, making the already cracked ground crater in her wake. With the Scorch demon distracted, she managed to land on its head, swing back a fist, and hammer onto its flaming skull. Finally, a crack was left from one of her blows. The demon swung its claw to grab her, but she leapt off and it just swatted its own head. Calfide took the opportunity to smash its grappled arm onto the ground and crunch its foe into the street. The flaming demon released its grip and scrambled back across the road, clambering up another building. As it did, the shrimp demon aimed its cannon again. Mara was still falling back towards the ground and was moving right into the demon general's aim. She clapped her hands as hard as she could to propel herself sideways through the air, but she didn't move fast enough. An eruption of pressurized air exploded towards Mara and the flaming demon. She was blasted across the city again, smashing into a building that was also crumbling from the shot. She could hardly see as she fell through the debris. By the time it all settled, there were literally tons of concrete and metal on top of her. She pushed and dug using all her strength and was able to tear herself out. But by the time she did, the Scorch demon was clambering across the demon general's body again. It could infect it at any second. Alexis, I know you're fighting Tarsa and that takes priority, but if there is any way you can give me even 30 seconds with the... Alexis didn't even let her finish. Reaper Rise, Koshmara Naroi. Let me know the second you're done with it, Mara. The Reaper ring was over Koshmara's head in a fraction of a second. Her entire body illuminated in a purple glow. Her tail lengthened and spikes burst from its end, hovering around it. Horns sprouted from her head. Bursts of purple flame spat from her elbows and mouth. She felt like she could tear a demon general apart with one hand. She leapt forward and moved so fast she could barely process it. She tackled right into the demon general's stomach and it stumbled backwards. She clawed around its back, then onto the Scorch kaiju. It was quick and swung a claw towards her, but she raised her own claw, which suddenly broke apart and expanded. Beneath it was purple goop and energy. With her fingertips growing, forged from stony demon flesh, she swung the arm and sliced off the Scorch demon's coming limb. Before it even had time to react, she swung that same claw up across its torso. She carved right through its chest, and now the magma didn't even hurt in the slightest. She reached its head with her claw and sliced through that as well, making the demon explode into flames and ash. With the flaming kaiju gone, she landed on the shrimp demon's back again, though now she understood why Heath could only handle this ability for so long. It was like every bone and tendon inside her was screaming for her to stop. She couldn't yet, though. She needed this demon general immobilized. It swung its cannon behind it and fired at her, but she leapt out of the way with ease. Her feet struck a building and she bounded off it towards the creature's legs. She tackled and ripped one off in one move. She then landed on the ground and swung her massive claw at all its other legs. In one swing, she sliced 4 of them off, and the demon crashed to the ground. She wanted to go for its cannon claw so it couldn't fire anymore, but worried she may kill it. Besides, after that strike, Mara's eyes started to glaze over in purple light to a point where she couldn't even see anymore. She leapt backwards to get away from the demon, but had no idea how far she went. Her feet clipped the ground as she landed and she rolled across the torn up concrete, muttering, I'm done, Alexis, take it back. Alexis recalled the ability, and soon Mara's vision returned. The red ring above her was gone, and the kaiju demon general was trying to claw its way across the street, not getting very far. It'd be pretty easy to get this thing into containment at the RAS Foundation now.
Quick interruption for a very special announcement, which is that finally, as of today, the book version of Vigilance has been released up on Amazon. In case you didn't watch the series, it's an interconnected anthology about the competitors of a superpowered sports fighting league called the Global Vigilance League. So it's got fun superhero action, lots of interconnected stories, but also all of the characters' tales and arcs revolve around personal development and mental health lessons that I've personally learned myself that have really helped me live a better life. So it's like my positive or inspiring ending notes to my videos worked into the actual stories. I am so excited for this to finally be out there. It was a long journey getting it finished, but I've learned a lot from doing this so that the next books I make from my currently ongoing series are going to be a lot easier to do now. Because Amazon is doing all the printing and shipping, you can actually get it in like 2 days if you have Amazon Prime, depending on where you are in the world, I think. But that is way faster than things printed and shipped last year for my art book that I released. Also, giving it a 5-star positive review would really help boost it up through Amazon's algorithm. But regardless, if you do get a copy, I really hope you enjoy it. A lot of heart and art went into this series. There will be links to it in the description, but for now, back to Multiverse Tales.
Back across the city, Alexis certainly wasn't enjoying her team up, but it was getting results. Kaijugrex's Tyrannosaurus demon, Kytyrannos, was tearing apart Tarsa's building demons easily, and Kaijugrex was showing off some of his other powers. He had a common kaiju ability to spit an energy beam from his mouth, and this yellow blast was enough to carve through a dozen buildings in a single hit. He'd managed to hit Tarsa with it, and she was smashed into the street blocks away, though she didn't make the mistake of being hit by it again. Kaijugrex also had a sort of pouch on his lower stomach, and it could open up. From it could hover a bunch of black and yellow orbs that shot towards Tarsa like Alexis's Stoneseekers might. They didn't even have to hit Tarsa, they simply got close and exploded into flaming bursts of light that created enough destructive force to toss Tarsa around like a ragdoll. Again, she adapted quickly and started firing her targeting laser beams at them. Anytime Kaijugrex tried that again, she'd make them explode before they got too close to her. As he had shown off before, Kaijugrex could also clack his teeth together and spontaneously summon new demons. But the ones he created this way proved to be quite weak, and were barely able to hold their own against Tarsa's infected buildings. Kytyrannos was different because he was a demon general Kaijugrex had already created, and he'd simply summoned the general here to help. Hence why this beast was performing far better in the brawl. Early in the fight, Alexis had been avoiding attacking Tarsa with her scythe, out of fear of killing her, but she eventually tried asking the rings again how many hits it would take to kill Tarsa, and it was over 60. She became less shy about using her scythe after that. She especially had to rely on it while her Reaper Rise was off helping Mara. At that time, Kaijugrex had surrounded Tarsa with the aid of 2 of its weaker instant kaiju. Tarsa grabbed the heads of these other 2 kaiju in her tentacle claws and tore them off with ease, hurling them at Kaijugrex, who seemed very entertained by the move. All the while, one of his 4 eyes glanced over at Alexis and winked. She hated that she understood he was making a distraction for her. Alexis swooped in behind Tarsa while she was hurling the heads at Kaijugrex, and Alexis carved her scythe right across Tarsa's shoulder. It wasn't quite enough to sever her limb, but Tarsa did shriek in pain as a result. The moment after Alexis did that was when she deactivated Mara's Reaper Rise, and when her red ring returned, it informed her that she'd unlocked a new ability with the scythe, entitled Scythe Recall. Tarsa had recovered quickly and was on the city streets with Kaijugrex lunging to bite her. She caught his jaw in her 2 tentacles, and as he tried to fire a beam at her with his open maw, she aimed his head to the side to blast through some nearby buildings instead. Through her tentacles, yellow light started to seep out of Kaijugrex's body towards Tarsa. She was trying to steal his powers, the way she had Cypheramov's. Alexis soared around behind Tarsa again and this time hurled her scythe. The massive weapon spun through the air right towards Tarsa. She noticed it coming, slammed Kaijugrex's head into the ground, and swung her tentacles back to hit the weapon away, but instead it sliced right through her mechanical limbs and cut them both off. It kept coming and Tarsa barely managed to dodge aside. It bore into the ground behind her, but then Alexis used the recall. It immediately tore back out of the ground and sliced Tarsa across the back as it returned to Alexis's hand. Tarsa's tentacles were slowly growing back as she ran from Kaijugrex, firing more seeking lasers at Alexis. Before she got more than a few shots off though, an axe slammed into her arm and destroyed the top barrels of her weapon. She turned just as a fist was slamming right into her head, striking hard enough to send her stumbling sideways.
The others got the kaiju situation under control, so I couldn't resist coming to say hi to an old friend.
Ares said as he swung the mighty axe around in his hand. Tarsa gritted her teeth.
Ares, so that is you, still alive after all this time.
I had the same thought about you. You know, Mythal, Ortis, and Lorna are still kicking too. We should have a nice big reunion. I'm sure they'd love to see you.
Before she could respond, the scythe slashed across her leg, and she dodged aside as it returned to Alexis. Ares took the chance to swing again, and managed to hit his axe right into the top of Tarsa's head. It didn't go far in, but clearly hurt. She swung her bladed arm at his stomach, but he leapt back, yanking the axe out of her. She leapt backwards away from Ares, only to have Kaijugrax chomp into her shoulder, raise her into the air, and then slam her into the ground, smashing a crater into the street.
Oh, maybe you won't even live long enough for the God Dwellers to come see you. Oh well, I'll tell him you said hi.
Tarsa looked dazed as the smoke was clearing and Kaijugrax was hammering a claw down towards her. At the same moment, Alexis was flying in with her scythe raised for a strike. Suddenly, Tarsa cried out in rage, and in a glow of eerie red light, both Kaijugrax's fist and Alexis's full body were halted in midair. Red bubbling auras hovered around them, and 3 eyeball-like red lights had appeared over Tarsa's head, with crimson runes floating around them. Kaijugrax tilted his head curiously at Tarsa, who was clearly struggling to maintain this ability's hold.
This is not one of Cyberonov's abilities.
She growled. No, it isn't. Ares leapt at Tarsa, swinging his axe, but she didn't try to hold him back, too. She leapt away, releasing her hold, and all 3 of her combatants slammed into each other, where she had once been. Tell the God Dwellers that when my new pantheon is forged, and I've absorbed the other Archon's forms fully, I'll be coming back for the world that is rightfully mine, along with every other world remaining in the multiverse. A red portal of churning blood and bones appeared below her, and she sunk into it, disappearing. Ares shook his head.
Once a coward, always a coward, I guess.
Alexis turned angrily to Kaijugrax, who seemed to be still processing what just happened. What was that? Did she already absorb Eldrorok?
Of course not. She'll never be able to defeat Elder.
Kaijugrax responded without his usual chuckles. Then why did it look like she was using his abilities?
I do not know, but I'd very much like to find out.
Kaijugrax clacked his teeth together. Alexis didn't see the result of that immediately, but before asking what he'd just done, Heath spoke through the comms.
Hey, Alexis, what just happened? The kaiju are all turned into ash on their own. Did you kill the general or Kaijugrax or something?
She looked up at the Archon demon confused.
You and your allies fought well today, Reaper. I have rid this world of its demons, save for Kelfide. I overheard you saying you wanted one of my generals as a prisoner, correct?
Why would you willingly hand over one of your own generals?
Well, I could say it's solely because you earned it, but really it's because the thought of you all wasting your time trying to rehabilitate a demon general to do good is too hilarious to pass up. Have fun. I'm sure I'll see you again soon.
Kaijugrax clacked his jaw, then swooped up into the air. He'd barely made it above the city when yellow light engulfed him, and he disappeared.
So, that was one of the Archons, huh? Never thought I'd see them in the flesh either. Mostly, because, most of the time I knew they existed, they didn't even have flesh.
He looked over at Alexis and noticed her eyes darting back and forth across the ground.
Something on your mind, Reaper?
She glanced up at him, shaking away her train of thought. Nothing. Team, mission complete. Let's get that demon general to the RAS Foundation. Anyone with speed, do a sweep of the city for anyone trapped or injured, and get them to the evacuation sites. She acted as confident and decisive as she needed to be in that moment. But she still had a lot to process from that day. She didn't like how an Archon demon had just shown some sign of being honorable by leaving them his general. Fantarel had been proof that Archons could do good, but she'd never attacked a world with sentient life. Kaijugrax had billions of murders to answer for. Alexis also wanted to know why Tarsa already showed signs of having the abilities of the fiercest Archon, Eldrorok. What was once a clear-cut mission, kill the Archon demons to save the multiverse, was getting muddier with each new revelation. At least one thing Alexis could hold on to was her trust in her team, and in the fact that every day her Reaper powers got better and better. In the wrap-up of the mission, Alexis overheard Ares talking to Tayran about coming to visit M308. She went up to him and asked, Ares, these God Queller friends of yours, are you actually going to call them in to help us fight Tarsa? We could really use their help against both Tarsa and the Archons.
Well, maybe at some point, but they're, off somewhere. Promised him I wouldn't tell anyone and said I wouldn't interrupt him unless it was an emergency.
Alexis crossed her arms. And the multiverse being at risk of destruction at the hands of Tarsa or the Archons isn't an emergency?
Well, you might have a point there. Let me toss the idea around a bit and get back to you. I do want to help you out, but I've got more loyalty to Ortis and the Godquellers than I do to you. No offense.
She wasn't happy about the answer, but accepted it. At least there was a chance of getting these other Reapers on board for the fight. With the risk of Tarsa's power level rising, they were going to need all the help they could get.
And there we have the two-part story of Powerhouses Reaper Rise. Thank you very much to the subscribers who were chosen for this part of the episode, Cano Lupo and Samuel Adewami. And if you want to participate in the next redraw, I announced it in the last episode, but you can see it up on screen here now. It's probably going to come a little bit later because, Christmas time, I'll probably be taking a little bit of time off. So likely releasing in early January or something like that. But anyway, besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note, and the thought I want to leave people with today is a concept I heard this week from Eckhart Tolle, which feels fitting because there is a variant of him in Vigilance, again on sale now, linked in the description. But he was talking about how so many of your thoughts will act like they're so completely important, and you have to pay attention to them and focus on them right now. And in a lot of cases, they're really just not. Lots of thoughts that just come to your mind aren't that important, and some of them are just outright lying to you. So hearing him say that kind of helped me over the last week, where when some kind of thought would come through my mind and I would kind of latch onto it, and it wasn't a positive one, I would kind of picture it as like a character and in a very over-the-top way, saying, "I'm important, pay attention to me!" And then I just kind of don't, and I let it go. Hope that works for someone else out there. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. A very important episode of Starseed Psyche finally coming up. Which, by the way, is on Spotify now as well. Anyway, I'll see you there. Goodbye.